Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Hello and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for your new podcast for today. And today it's Wednesday and this has been pre-recorded so you can listen to it as soon as you wake up, on the way to work, or while you're having your morning brew, or while you're in the garden or on the allotment on a hopefully glorious day. I know I'll be at the allotment today, but obviously I won't be listening to myself because I've recorded it. But if you're new to this podcast, make sure you give us a follow, make sure you give us a subscribe, and then you will get notified as new podcasts come up, and there's plenty of other podcasts for you to listen to as well. Certainly a lot of podcasts being recorded by myself. So today's episode is a bit later than usual. Usually it's recorded for the first of the month, but time has been busy and we've not had a chance to record it. So today's episode is going to be talking about all the jobs that need doing in the allotment and garden, as there is quite a lot to keep you busy at this time of year. So let us go through and talk about what needs to be done in the vegetable garden, flower garden and the fruit garden. So you may want to make some notes, or you can just listen back and listen to the episode. So first off, we will start talking about what needs to be done in the vegetable garden. And as your tomato plants start to grow, you need to encourage them to grow up rather than bush out. Now, usually what people do is they pull off the side shoots which grow on the tomato plant. These usually grow from the side, and you can usually tell that they're like another extra little plant growing on the side. And I've only recently found out that you can actually plant them up and start another tomato plant if you need some more plants. So pinch them off, and that will encourage the tomato plant to grow upwards and hopefully produce a lot more fruit, rather than the plant taking its energy into growing that extra tomato plant on the side. So marrow and courgette plants, these can be planted out this month if you've not planted them yet. Plant them with a trowel, making sure that the soil ball stays together, and make sure you water the plant immediately after planting them so that they do take into the ground. But be careful where you water with marrows and courgettes, because they can tend to rot where the stem is. So people tend to water at the side of the marrow and courgette plants so that it soaks into the soil and goes down to the roots. Some people, even myself, plant pots at the side of it and then water into the plant pot rather than watering around the plant, because then you don't risk watering around where the stem is and risk it rotting and snapping off. Leeks. If you've not planted your leeks this month, get them in. Choose the best ones that are growing to plant out. What you need to do is make holes for your leeks and drop them in. Don't fill the soil back in. Make sure you water the holes and the soil will sink in around the plant, and that will stop it from snapping or damaging the plant what you have grown. If you push the soil back, you risk snapping the leek and you'll have lost your plant. So water the holes, fill them up with water, and the soil will seep back around the leeks, securing them in. Garlic. Now is the time to be getting ready to harvest that garlic. If you sowed all your garlic in November, October, December, you will notice it's starting to turn yellow and it will start dying off this month. What you need to do is, when they are fully yellow and died off the leaves, pull them out and let them dry out. Store them somewhere dry, hang them up somewhere in a shed or in a greenhouse, let them dry out, let all the soil fall off, and then they're ready to use. As well as your garlic being ready, your onions will start to turn ready. and they'll start to be ready towards the end of June, in July time. You'll notice the leaves are going yellow, they'll start falling over the leaves, they'll start falling to the soil, and that means that the onions are ready for harvesting, and they probably won't grow much bigger. So again, once they're ready for harvesting, dig them up, just get a trowel underneath it and ease them up, being careful not to damage the onion. Ease them up, shake the soil off. People tend to leave them out on the soil for the day, let them dry out a bit, let the soil fall off, and then they'll hang them up in the shed or in the greenhouse. Again, somewhere dry, not damp, because it'll just rot them. And yeah, hang them up and then they'll be ready to use. Potatoes. As they start popping the plants through the soil, you need to cover them up more with soil. This will encourage more potatoes to grow on top of the soil, because you don't want the green potatoes popping through the top, or they'll turn green and they will be poisonous. So keep topping them up with soil and filling the soil around the plant, and that will encourage more and more potatoes to be growing. The first lot usually take around 10 to 12 weeks to grow and to be ready. So you usually can tell when potatoes are ready, because like onions and garlics, the tops will start to die and they'll start turning yellow, and that will mean the potatoes are starting to get ready to harvest. They'll probably be ready towards the end of June, beginning of July, so keep your eyes peeled on them. And obviously when you're digging them up, be careful where you're sticking your fork, because you don't want to stick your fork straight through a potato and ruin it. Courgettes, squash, pumpkins, all your marrows, these all can be planted out this month. Just make sure that you harden them off for a couple of weeks first, so that the shock of the cold air at night doesn't kill them. And yeah, just protect them and make sure that they're protected from slugs, from birds, stuff like that, because you don't want to lose them plants that you have spent so long getting growing. Brassicas. Now is the time to be planting out all your brassicas, which includes cabbages, cauliflowers, broccoli and Brussels sprouts. But make sure you net them really well, because pigeons absolutely adore them. If you plant your brassicas out and you forget to net them and you do it the next day, there'll be none left, because the pigeons will have eaten the lot of them. Just make sure that you really do protect them from the pigeons. They are their favourite food. They'll be watching you plant them, and they will swoop in as soon as you go and eat the full lot of them. So next up is cucumbers. Pinch out the ends of the cucumber plants when they have reached about 8 leaves long. This will encourage them to start spreading and sending out side shoots, and encouraging them to grow more fruit on. So yeah, if you're growing things under glass, or like in a greenhouse or a cold frame, apply a white wash or shading so that the sun does not scorch the plants, because when the sun's shining through that greenhouse windows, that will scorch the plants. If there's any wet on the plants, it will reflect it and it'll burn the leaves. So just be careful when watering under hot weather in a greenhouse. So next up, we're going to talk about flowers. So flowers require a lot of attention this month, especially during the hot days like we have recently. And so if you're growing sweet peas, make sure you pick them as soon as they start flowering. This will encourage more and more flowers to grow. Yes, you may be getting lots of flowers, but feel free to give them to neighbours, friends, family, and they will absolutely love them. The more you pick them, the more they will keep growing and last longer. If you don't pick them and they go to seed, they think they're finished, and that's when they start to die off. Next up, we have got tall flowers. Now if you're growing tall flowers, especially like your dahlias and stuff like that, what you need to do is make sure that you use either like small canes or sticks or large canes, especially how tall they are, if they're lupins and stuff like that. Make sure you support them by using canes and fastening them up, because if it gets a bit windy, which I've seen there's going to be a storm coming, make sure that you support them, because you don't want the wind snapping them and losing your flowers what you've grown. Snowdrops. When the plants start to die off, lift the bulbs up, divide them so that you get more snowdrops. Wallflowers. At the end of June, you can sow your wallflowers and sweet williams in their flowering positions, ready for next year. Hanging baskets. Make sure that you have hardened off your hanging baskets before taking them outdoors. Make sure they are well watered, especially in the hot days. You may even have to water them twice if it is a hot day. Check them in the morning when you wake up, and check them at night before you go to bed. But make sure, especially if they are fantastic looking hanging baskets, padlock them to your hanging basket support, because people do pinch them. Yes, I know, but people can pinch hanging baskets, so if you want to look after it and keep it, put a padlock through the top and fasten it to the bracket. Then next up we have got dahlias. When your dahlias begin to grow after about 3 weeks after planting, you can pinch out the tip of each main shoot. This will encourage the plant to become a lot more bushier. Spring bulbs. If your spring bulbs foliage has died back now, you can trim all the leaves off, get rid of the horrible looking leaves, and let them disappear from your garden until next springtime. But don't trim them back before they have died back, so let them die back first and then trim off the leaves. Gladioli. When the weather is dry, make sure the ground has had a good soaking, especially when you start to see the flower spikes appearing. Now mine haven't got the flower spikes showing yet, they're only showing the leaves at the minute, so we're still waiting for the flowers to appear. So yeah, we'll have to have a look and see what we can do with them. Fuchsias. To make the plant more bushier and gain more flowers, pinch out the tips off each stalk. Now that's one job I need to do, because I've got a lot of fuchsias this year, so I need to go around and pinch out the tops off each one. Roses. My roses have just started appearing. I've started sharing pictures of them, but as they die back, make sure you deadhead them, and if you notice any black spot, pull those leaves off immediately. Poppies. Once oriental poppies have finished flowering, cut them back to the ground. This will encourage new growth for later on. Honeysuckle and clematis. Help these climbing plants by tying them to the framework that they are growing up. Lavender. Why not harvest the heads from your lavender to use in baking or to garnish your food with, and save money buying them. Fruit trees and fruit garden. Now this is the month to start loving all your fruit, so these are some great tips for your fruits. Plum trees. This is one for me. These trees can start to be pruned this month. Try and not disturb any fruit which is growing. Keep your eyes on the tree that the green fly do not attack them. Try and protect the fruiting trees from the birds, because the birds will eat them. So if you've got a plum tree, give it a nice prune. Make sure there's no branches crossing each other and stuff like that, so the air can get to it, and give them a good tidy up and shape up. Strawberry plants. As well as fruiting, they'll start sending out those runners, which are little baby strawberry plants, and yes, you can get more strawberry plants from your strawberry plant. So what you need to do is, if you see one of those runners popping out from the plant, peg it into the soil. It will send out some roots to the soil. Once it's taken root, then you can trim it and cut it off from the mother, a bit like an umbilical cord really, and there you have it. You will have an extra strawberry plant, and you'll get more strawberries on that plant next year. So you can literally quadruple the amount of strawberry plants you have from all the runners which they will send off. So yeah, make sure you keep them watered. Feed them once a week while the strawberries are producing. That will encourage bigger and better strawberries and tastier strawberries. Like you would feed your tomato plants every week, make sure you feed your strawberry plants as well, especially while they're producing that fruit. Apple trees. Make sure you keep an eye out for greenfly. Also keep your eyes peeled for spider mite. Where you see a heavy set of fruit, thin them out a bit, but watch out, as in June and the beginning of July there can be a heavy drop of fruit, which means that the fruit tree sometimes drops a lot of fruit from it. So be careful if you are separating them out. They may separate themselves out later in June and July. It just like sheds a load of fruit and it'll lose a load of fruit from the tree, but hopefully it will leave plenty on it for it to grow. Blackberry and loganberries, these two fruits need help while they're growing. Make sure you fasten the stems and support them so that they're off the ground and that pests can't eat them. So grow them up against some wires, grow them up against some fencing, but just make sure that they're off the ground to stop any rodents or things eating them. Obviously the birds will come along and eat them as well, but yeah, just keep them off the ground and hopefully try and stop anything else from eating them. Black currants, you can help the plant by encouraging new growth on the bush, by watering the bush and even mulching or with compost or manure. Gooseberries, if you can see your gooseberry bush creating a heavy crop, you can thin them out. This will improve the size of the gooseberries, but just watch out for the thorns as they can really hurt. Cut off any new lateral shoots to around 5 leaves. This will encourage the fruit bush to put all its effort into the fruit. And now they'll be getting ready for picking actually gooseberries around this time of year, so make sure you keep an eye out for them because the birds do love gooseberries as well. Not everybody likes the taste of them, but the birds certainly do. Peach and nectarine trees, again watch out for greenfly as they love these trees. Raspberries, make sure you water them well, especially in this weather, as the fruit starts to develop in this month, and obviously the water needs to help them swell and produce good decent crops. Red and white currants, you can protect these bushes from the birds by either building a fruit cage over them or putting netting over them, or even using cotton between the branches to stop the birds from getting in. The fruit will start to develop this month and you will start to be picking it pretty soon. So yeah, that is basically all the tips for growing in June. So I hope you found them useful. Tomorrow's episode we'll be talking about what you can plant in June. Yes, you can still be growing stuff this month. There's still plenty of time to start getting stuff in. So we'll be talking about that in tomorrow's episode. So if you are new to the podcast, do click that subscribe button. Do click that notification button, that bell, that follow button, any button. Just make sure you do follow me and you will get notified of a new podcast as soon as it comes up. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please do leave a review. Either if it's on Apple, it's a written review, or if you're listening on Spotify, it's a star rating review. And quite a lot of people have left them already, so thank you for those that have done. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcast.